You know what I love? Super Smash Bros. And no, not in the competitive wave dashy kind of way. For you see, as someone with no friends, I really love playing through the Smash games single player, doing my damnedest to collect all of the useless collectible crap, such as trophies and stickers and spirits. However, these items also fascinate me, just in how they represent so many obscure and forgotten branches of the Nintendo family tree. It's always exciting for me, seeing which series get represented, which ones return, which ones are brand new, and learning about the many odd and obscure games that Nintendo has created in their many years of existence. And so, here I am attempting to document every single spirit in the entirety of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, their origins, and the references made to them in Ultimate Spirits mode. However, to set myself apart from other great and perfectly valid attempts, I'm talking about the spirits chronologically, based on when they first debuted in a game. This first video, for example, is going to talk about all of the spirits that debuted from 1979 to 1983, and next we'll cover those who debuted in 1984. The only exception to this are the 124 fighter spirits, which will all be getting their own video, since they aren't obtained quite the same way as the rest of them, and in general the playable characters are a cut above the rest because they're, playable in a Smash game. That's enough to warrant it. Is such a thing warranted? Probably not. But let's do it anyway. So with this useless preamble out of the way, let's start where it all began. Well, almost. Not quite, but Sheriff is the main character of the 1979 arcade game of the same name, and the oldest character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate to appear as a spirit. His starring role had him defend a plot of land from a mob of bandits, moving around and shooting them if they approached. Doing so would liberate the damsel Betty from the bandits, who would award Sheriff with a kiss and some bonus points. His game used a very unique dual stick scheme, letting Sheriff move in one direction and fire in another. And according to the artwork on the arcade booth, his name is actually Mr. Jack, not just Sheriff. Outside of this original game, his only other appearance of any note is in WarioWare Mega Micro Games, where his game shows up as both a micro game and a full-fledged minigame starring Wario. In Smash Ultimate, his spirit does not have a spirit battle. It is instead obtained from either a treasure chest in World of Light, or through summoning, using the cores of Wild Gunman, Gangster Lady and Policeman, a neutral core, and 2 support cores. The reason for this is likely because all 3 characters come from retro shooter games. After summoning him, his type will be a support spirit, and his effect will be Assist Killer, granting extra damage against assist trophies. These are both likely references to the fact that Sheriff also shows up as an assist trophy in this game. Ball is the very first Game & Watch title to have ever been made, way back in 1980. This game features a flat zoner juggling a set of 2 balls, or 3 if playing the ultra difficult Game B mode, moving his hands left and right to keep them from falling to the ground. As time goes on, they get faster and faster, and if he misses any of the balls, he dies. Flat Zone is a very cruel world, you see. The concept of Ball will be remade into Mario the Juggler, the very last Game & Watch unit ever created, and Ball itself would be re-released as a DSiWare title, and also appears in Game & Watch Gallery 1 and 2. In Smash Ultimate, Ball's Spirit Battle has you face against Mr. Game & Watch, Pac-Man, Jigglypuff, and Kirby. Game & Watch represents the Juggler, and the other 3 all have a ball shape, referencing the 3 balls. The stage you fight them on is Flat Zone X from the Game & Watch series, and the music is Flat Zone 2, also from Game & Watch. The rules will make ball items spawn, referencing the balls in Ball, and the conditions will make the enemy favor grabs and throws, and make the enemy's throwing type items more powerful. This is in reference to how Mr. Game & Watch's grabs and throws are both based on Ball. After defeating him, the spirit will be a support type spirit, probably referencing how Mr. Game & Watch's grabs are again based on Ball, and its effect will be thrown items up. Again, likely referencing how Game & Watch's throwing moves are based on Ball, and also likely referencing how the main goal of the game is to juggle the balls. Flagman is a Silver Series Game & Watch unit that was first released in 1980. This game is a type of play on Simon Says, with the titular Flagman raising either a flag with a 1 or a 2 on it, or his feet with 3 and 4 on them, and the player needs to repeat the order that the flags and feet were raised. As with other games in the Game & Watch line, this game offers 3 chances to screw up, but is mainly just a high score chase. There's also a Game B mode, where you must react to what number Flagman is holding up in a very short time limit. This title was also a part of the Game Boy Gallery, Game & Watch Gallery 3, and even Wario Land 2 for reasons? I'm not entirely sure on that one. In Smash Ultimate, Flagman Spirit Battle has you fight against 4 Game & Watches, referencing how Flagman can display one of 4 different numbers. The stage you fight them on is Flat Zone X, and the music is Flat Zone 2. The rules for the battle will make special flags show up, referencing Flagman's flags, obviously, and the conditions for the battle will make it a timed fight, and also make the enemy favor up-tilt attacks. The timed battle condition is likely referencing the short time limit you had to repeat Flagman's orders, while the up-tilt is a reference to how Game & Watch's up-tilt is based on Flagman. After defeating him, he'll be a support-type spirit, referencing his appearance in Mr. Game & Watch moveset, and its effect will be critical health stats up, which may not be based on anything, but could be based on the extremely high power of Game & Watch's Judge 9 attack, which could also be a reference to the fact that in order to obtain the spirit, you can complete a challenge where you must KO an opponent with a 9 from Game & Watch's side special Judge. The Ghosts, aka the Ghost Gang, are the main obstacle in Pac-Man, and Pac's arch-enemy. In the original Pac-Man, they scurry around the maze, attempting to intercept Pac-Man's quest for dots, killing him upon instant contact. The red one, Blinky, will chase Pac directly. The pink one, Pinky, will try to ambush him from the front. The cyan one, Inky, will follow Pac-Man at a distance, and the orange one, Clyde, will follow Pac-Man, but run down to the lower left if he gets too close. All that being said, if Pac nabs the power pellet, the tables will turn, and he can now chase and eat the quartet for extra bonus points. While many more ghosts have appeared since, some good, and most bad, these 4 have shown up the most, sometimes as the main villains, sometimes as minions, and sometimes they'll even work alongside Pac-Man to fight a greater threat. In Super Smash Bros., the Ghost Spirit Battle will have you fight against Kirby, Jigglypuff, Squirtle, and Pac-Man, whose colors and costumes represent Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde respectively. The stage you fight them on is Pac-Land, the sole Pac-Man stage, which did feature ghosts in the original title, and the music that plays is Pac-Man from their debut game. The rules for the battle will make assist trophy enemies spawn, specifically the ghosts, and after defeating them, there'll be a shield-type spirit that you can use in battle, which likely references how the ghosts are normally completely invincible until Pac-Man uses a power pellet. Turn to Blue is the name that Smash Bros. Gives to the Ghost Gang's vulnerable states. In the original Pac-Man, one of the main mechanics were the power pellets. 4 of them were placed in the 4 corners of the maze, and when Pac-Man ate one, the ghosts would turn blue and start to run away. Pac-Man could then gobble them up for bonus points, with the number doubling with every ghost caught, 200, 400, 800, and 1600. However, the effect only lasts for a few seconds, so he'll need to make this attempt count. Power pellets and blue ghosts have since appeared in basically every other game across the entire series, and they all work basically the same way, with some adding a few extra style points, such as turning Pac-Man giant, or even making him a superhero. In Super Smash Bros., the Turn to Blue Spirit Battle will face you off against 4 Mr. Game & Watches, who are blue and 2-dimensional. The stage you face them on is Wrecking Crew, which is likely a reference to the mazes of Pac-Man, given that it's also kind of labyrinthine in its design. The music that plays is Pac-Man, from the Ghost debut game. The conditions for the battle make it a timed battle, and also makes the enemy tend to avoid conflict. The timed battle is likely referencing the short time limit that the power pellets had, and the avoiding conflict is a reference to how the blue ghosts will run from Pac-Man. After being beaten, there'll be a support spirit, which may be a reference to the bonus points that one could obtain from eating them, and their effect will be trade-off speed up, referencing how the blue ghosts are vulnerable, but they're also slightly faster than normal in an attempt to get away from Pac-Man. The bonus fruit are a set of fruit and fruit-adjacent items that act as collectibles across the Pac-Man series. In the original game, they spawn just under the maze's ghost house for a brief time, and grabbing them would grant Pac some extra points. In order of appearance, there was a cherry, a strawberry, an orange, an apple, a melon, a Galaxian flagship from the 1979 arcade game Galaxian, a bell, and a key. Other arcade games would keep some, but also add in a handful of new ones, including pretzels, cocktails, trains, 4-leaf clovers, and many, many more. The classic fruit also show up in other Pac-Man titles, such as the World Trilogy, acting as collectibles to open doors and score bonus points. In Super Smash Bros., the bonus fruit spirit battle faces you against two Pac-Men, who use bonus fruit as their neutral specials. The stage is Pac-Land, the one Pac-Man stage which also did feature fruit, and the music that plays is Pac-Man, from their debut game Pac-Man. The conditions for the battle make it a timed battle, and make the enemy favor neutral specials. The timed battle is a reference to how bonus fruit will vanish after a short time, whilst the neutral specials is a reference to how Pac-Man tosses fruit for his neutral special. After defeating them, there will be a support type spirit, probably referencing how they grant bonus points in Pac-Man, as well as how Pac-Man uses them as a weapon in Super Smash Bros. The effect they grant you is Stamina Up, which may just be a standard reference to how fruit generally heals you whenever you use it in a video game. Fire was originally released as a Silver Series Game & Watch in 1980, before being reissued for the widescreen series in 81. In this game, you control two firemen, who use a trampoline to bounce escaping pedestrians from a burning building into an ambulance. Like other Game & Watch titles, the goal is purely to get a high score, with the speed and number of innocents to save increasing over time. It was also featured in Game & Watch Galleries 1, 3, and 4, and appears as a transformation for both Flat Zone 2 and X in Super Smash Bros. Also in Smash, the Fire Spirit Battle will have you face against 4 Mr. Game & Watches, since Fire is their up special. The stage is Flat Zone X, utilizing the Fire layout, and the music is Flat Zone 2. The conditions for the battle will make the enemy's up special have increased power, and make it a timed battle. The up specials is a reference to how Fire is Mr. Game & Watch's up special inspiration, whilst the time battles possibly reference the watch feature of the Game & Watch, which function as a proper watch with an alarm feature to help you keep track of time while you're playing. It could also be a reference to how the pedestrians will speed up over time as you're playing the game of Fire. After defeating the spirit, you can equip it as a support type, referencing how it's one of Mr. Game & Watch's attacking moves. Its effect is Lava Floor Immunity, since the goal of Fire is to save people from a burning building without them touching the floor. Judge is a multiplayer Game & Watch unit released in the Silver Series in 1980. In this game, both players wield hammers and giant signs that will display a single-digit number between 1 and 9. Whoever has the highest number must whack the other player with the hammer, whilst the victim must dodge out of the way. Whoever performs their task successfully earns points, and the first one to reach 99 points will win. This game was also available to play in Game & Watch Gallery 3 and on DSiWare. In Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, the Judge Spirit Battle has you face against 8 Mr. Game & Watches, which references the 9 numbers that Judge is capable of pulling out. The stage you face them on is Flat Zone X, and the music is Flat Zone 2. The conditions for the fight will make the enemy favor side specials, referencing how Mr. Game & Watch's side special is of course based on Judge. After defeating the spirit, it can be equipped as a support spirit, referencing how Game & Watch can use it as an attack to support him. The effect it provides is Critical Hit Up, which references Game & Watch's extremely powerful Judge 9 that can, in most cases, instantly kill you if you're not lucky. Manhole was originally released in 1981 as a Gold Series Game & Watch unit, and re-released as a new widescreen unit later on. You play as a street worker, who must use his trusty manhole to keep the pedestrians from falling into gaps in the sidewalk. Their movement speed increases as time goes on, and if you fail 3 times, then it's game over, as is the case with basically all of the Game & Watch units, if you couldn't tell by now. The game was also released in Game & Watch Gallery 1 and 3, WarioWare Gold, and as the sole Game & Watch title released for the e-reader in North America. It was also referenced in all 3 of Mr. Game & Watch's stages in Smash. For its Spirit Battle, you face off against a single Mr. Game & Watch, which is obviously a reference to how he has Manhole as an attack. The stage you fight them on is Flat Zone X, and the music is Flat Zone 2, as you would expect. The rules will make pitfall items show up constantly, since the manhole originally filled in pitfalls in its source game, and the conditions will make the enemy favor down tilt attacks, since Mr. Game & Watch uses Manhole as a down tilt inspiration. After defeating him, he can be equipped as a support spirit, referencing how the original goal of the game was to support various walkers from falling into pits. The effect he provides is bury immunity, again since he protected people from falling. This spirit is also available to purchase from Timmy and Tommy's. Helmet was originally released in 1981 as a Gold Series Game & Watch unit. This game tasks you with crossing a road to reach your home, avoiding a mob of falling tools so that your helmet does not fall off. Just don't spend too much time wondering why you die when your helmet falls off, or where all those tools are inexplicably coming from, else you won't be able to get the high score. And isn't that all that really matters in the world of video games? Said game was also featured in the first 2 Game & Watch galleries, was released in DSiWare, and made up the basis of the Flat Zone stage in Super Smash Bros. Melee. This spirit is one of the few that does not have a spirit battle, and instead has to be purchased from Anna's Emporium. After you do so, it'll be a support type spirit that you can equip, referencing how Mr. Game & Watch uses the helmet as a dash attack. The effect is critical health defense up, which may be referencing how the helmet technically protects you from tools, though it does cost you a life if you do get hit by them. Lion is a Game & Watch unit that was released in 1981, originally as part of the Gold series. This game lets you control a pair of lion tamers working at a zoo, and you need to use their chairs to help keep the lion in their cages. As with all Game & Watch units, you have 3 lives, a harder B mode, and the only goal is really to beat your high score. And of course, also like all the others, there really isn't any story or anything of interest to notably talk about, if you couldn't tell by now. In Super Smash Bros., the Lion Spirit has you face off against Mr. Game & Watch and Incineroar. The former is of course the Lion Tamer, and the latter is of course the Lion. The stage you fight them on is Flat Zone X in its lion form, and the music is Flat Zone 2, which also originally featured Lion. After defeating them, there'll be a shield type spirit, likely referencing how the main goal of the game is to try to keep a lion in its cage, protecting yourself with the chairs. Said spirit is also obtainable by completing a challenge, getting 20 continuous hits in the training mode. Parachute is a 1981 Game & Watch title and the first unit for the widescreen series. In this game, a helicopter carrying what I can only assume are meant to be military strongmen is flying over a river in what I can only assume is Vietnam. You control a man in a boat and must row to each soldier as they drift towards the water in order to grab them, making sure they do not fall prey for the carnivorous sharks. Sadly, we do not get any wartime gunplay, which, let's be real, would have been one of the greatest greats. This game was also featured in Game & Watch Gallery 1, 3, and 4, and was paired up with Octopus and Game & Watch Collection 2, including this actually pretty neat dual screens layouts. Look at this, this is pretty darn cool, I gotta admit. This spirit does not have a spirit battle. Instead, it needs to be purchased from Sheldon's shop. After purchasing him, he can be equipped as a support type spirit, referencing how the goal of the game is to help the rower save the parachuters. His effect when equipped is air defense up, again referencing the parachuters floating down to protection. Donkey Kong and Lady are two of the three main characters in the arcade title Donkey Kong. DK is the main villain, kidnapping Lady, Jumpman's girlfriend, and hauling her to the top of a construction site. Jumpman must bravely scale the girders, avoiding barrels, jacks, and sentient fire thingies to save Lady from the evil ape. Following this title, DK would be caged by Mario and promptly rescued by Donkey Kong Jr., and in an unrelated series of events, attacked a greenhouse. Lady didn't show up in either of these games, but she did make appearances in a handful of side materials like cartoons and activity books, the latter of which depicting her as a singer for the very first time. Currently, both of these characters do still exist under the names Cranky Kong and Pauline. In Super Smash Bros., Donkey Kong and Lady's Spirit Battle has you fight against a giant Donkey Kong with an AI ally Peach. Giant Donkey Kong of course references DK, and Peach, wearing red, references Lady. The stage you fight them on is 75 meters from Donkey Kong, and the music is the Donkey Kong Jr. medley. The rules for the battle will make an item tidal wave occur, making various barrels spawn, referencing the barrels that DK threw in the original arcade title. For the conditions, you'll lose if your CPU ally is KO'd, the enemy has super armor and is hard to launch or make flinch, and it's a timed stamina battle. Losing if your CPU ally dies is likely a reference to how the goal of Donkey Kong is to save Lady from DK. The super armor is a reference to how DK could not be directly hurt in the original Donkey Kong, and the time stamina battle likely references the time limit and limited levels of the arcade title. And yes, the original Donkey Kong did indeed have a time limit. I honestly did not know that until researching this, so that's neat. Anyway, after defeating them, they can be used as a grab-type primary spirit, referencing how DK kidnapped, and by extension grabbed, Lady. The effect of their spirit is Strong Throw, referencing Donkey Kong tossing barrels in the original arcade title. Pauline is the name given to Lady in the home console ports of Donkey Kong. After her original arcade appearance, Pauline more or less vanished outside of re-releases and sequels such as Donkey Kong 94. She would be properly introduced after a lengthy absence in Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2. Here, Pauline is depicted as a friend of Mario, and guest of honor at the opening of his new toy factory. After picking a mini Mario over a mini DK though, the modern DK follows in his grandfather's footsteps and kidnaps her, leading Mario to chase after them. She would later appear in all the following Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, evidently having patched things up with DK and sometimes even working alongside him. Her next major appearance after these was as the mayor of New Donk City in Super Mario Odyssey, even getting to perform Jump Up Superstar for the New Donk City Festival. With this modern musical appeal, she has since also appeared in Mario Kart, tennis, golf, and even Strikers. It's really nice seeing such an obscure character get such a big, bright spotlight put on her, eh? In Super Smash Bros., Pauline's spirit is represented by Peach, Mario, and Giant Donkey Kong. Peach is Pauline, Mario is Jumpman, and DK is the original Donkey Kong. Mario also wields a hammer from Donkey Kong, and wears his wedding outfit from Super Mario Odyssey, while DK starts with increased movement speed, possibly referencing him quickly kidnapping Pauline. The stage you fight them all on is 75 meters from Donkey Kong, and the music that plays is Jump Up Superstar, the main theme of Super Mario Odyssey that Pauline sings. The rules for the battle will make your jump power decrease, which might be a reference to the relatively weak jumping ability in the original Donkey Kong. The conditions for the battle will make the enemy tend to avoid conflict, specifically Pauline, referencing how she is the damsel in distress of the original game, and how Mario and Donkey Kong are the ones that actively fight each other over her. After defeating her, she can be equipped as a support-type spirit, possibly referencing how she's played a primarily support role across the various Mario titles. Her effect is Healing Shield, which most likely isn't a reference to anything, but maybe a reference to Jumpman saving Pauline in the original Donkey Kong. Possibly. Maybe. Probably not. Octopus is a 1981 Game & Watch unit that was released for the widescreen series. This game stars a trio of divers hunting for underwater treasure. However, their target of loot is guarded by a squiggly octopus, who's so octopus that he only needs 4 tentacles instead of 8. Anyway, the divers must grab treasure and haul it back while dodging the tentacles, as they're not really into that, let's say. This game would also be featured in Game & Watch Galleries 1 and 4, and paired with Parachute in Game & Watch Collection 2, and it was even the basis for an attraction in Nintendo Land. This spirit does not have a spirit battle. Instead, you need to summon it using cores from Octoman, Octorok, Oil Panic, and 2 shield cores. Octoman and Octorok are also octopus-like creatures, while Oil Panic is a fellow Game & Watch title. After summoning him, he'll be a shield-type spirit, referencing how the octopus defends its treasure in the original title, and the effect it provides is Strong Throw, which may be a reference to the octopus's strong tentacles that act as the main hazards. Boss Galaga is one of the most useful enemies that you can face in the 1981 arcade game Galaga. Rather than shooting you, they fly down and use a tractor beam to nab your spaceship and carry it back to the enemy's side, costing you 1 life. However, if you can blow it up, the ship will be liberated and you can fuse it with your current ship to double your firepower. It also takes 2 hits to destroy them rather than 1 like the other enemies. They've since shown up in several more Galaga games, re-releases, remasters, sequels, such as X and Legends, and they've even had a few references in the Pac-Man games, even showing up in Super Smash Bros. As an item. Also in Smash Ultimate, its Spirit Fight will have you fight against 5 tiny Pac-Men, referencing how Pac-Man's grab is the boss Galaga's tractor beam. The stage you face them on is Lilat Cruise, referencing the space setting of the original title and the player's ship in Galaga. The music that plays is the Galaga medley, for fairly obvious reasons, and the rules will make Boss Galaga items spawn, again for fairly obvious reasons. After defeating it, it can be equipped as a support-type spirit, which may be a reference to how the boss Galaga also shows up as an item in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and the effect it provides is Bury Immunity, referencing the ship's tractor beam. This spirit is also obtainable by summoning, using the cores of a swooping snitch bug and a bandit. The former is capable of floating, the latter is capable of killing you, and all 3 are known to steal valuable things from the player. Chef Game & Watch was originally released in 1981 as part of the widescreen Game & Watch series, which you probably could have told by the title of the spirit's name and all that. The game stars a chef, who very impressively juggles various meat products like steaks and sausages. However, he must keep the food in the air, for if he misses, they will fall to the floor and be taken by a vaguely mouse-like creature, I guess? Said meat probably also comes out of his paycheck too, so there is that. Chef was featured in Game & Watch Galleries 1, 2, and 4, and was the basis for one of the layouts of Flat Zone 2 and X. This spirit does not have a spirit battle. Instead, it must be summoned using the cores of Chef, Personal Trainer Cooking, Huey, and a support core. Chef is, of course, a fellow chef, and Huey is both two-dimensional and is capable of containing black paint, referencing the chef's black color scheme. After summoning it, it'll be a support-type spirit, which may reference how Mr. Game & Watch uses this game as the basis for his neutral special attack. Its effect is Stats Up after eating, referencing how he is a chef who prepares food, and those food raising your stats. Turtle Bridge is a Game & Watch title that was released in the widescreen series in 1982. This game stars a tourist, whose goal in life is to transport items across the river from one tourist to another, using the backs of turtles so as to not drown. Said turtles, however, do not appreciate this, and will dive into the water to try and drown the poor man, fail 3 times, and kiss the high score goodbye. And you better hope and pray beyond all belief that the tourists don't just decide not to show up, because that is the worst. This game was also featured in Game & Watch Gallery 1 and remade with classic and modern modes in Game & Watch Gallery 3. In Smash Ultimate, the Turtle Bridge Spirit has you face against Mr. Game & Watch, Squirtle, Bowser, and Morton. Game & Watch uses the turtles as an attack, and the other three are all turtles and turtle-adjacent life forms. The stage you face them on is Flat Zone X, and the music is Flat Zone from Melee. The conditions for the battle make the enemy favor back air attacks, referencing how Mr. Game & Watch's back air is based on Turtle Bridge. After defeating it, the spirit will be a support type, referencing how the turtles are used in one of Mr. Game & Watch's attacks. The spirit's effect after being equipped is Green Shell equipped, starting you off with a green shell, which is another reference to the turtles. This spirit is also obtainable by purchasing it from Beetle. Fire Attack was released in 1982 as part of the Game & Watch widescreen series. In this game, players take control of a cowboy whose base is under attack by torch-wielding Native Americans. Using his trusty hammer, the cowboy must knock the torches out of the sky before his base can be reduced to cinders. It showed up again in Game & Watch Galleries 1 and 4, with the latter appearance having the feathers of the natives removed, due to concerns regarding racial insensitivity. Said edit also applies to Smash Ultimate, for both the Spirit and Mr. Game & Watch himself. Also in Smash Ultimate, the Fire Attack Spirit will have you face against 4 Mr. Game & Watches, since they all use the torches as an attack. The stage you face them on is Flat Zone X, and the music that plays is the original Flat Zone. The conditions for the battle make the enemy favor side smash attacks, referencing how Mr. Game & Watch's side smash uses a torch from Fire Attack. After defeating them, they can be used as a shield-type primary spirit, referencing how the goal of Fire Attack is protecting your base from enemy forces. The effect they provide is Fire Attack Up, referencing the flaming torches that act as the main hazard of the game. Oil Panic was released in 1982 as the very first installment of the Game & Watch multi-screen series. On the top screen, a gas station attendant works to fill a bucket with oil leaking from the roof, which makes basically no sense if you think about it for even a second. He must then dump the oil into the boss's oil drum on the bottom screen, so that the boss can fill up the cars. Just make sure that the oil doesn't catch on fire, or miss the buckets, or splash the pedestrians. Gas stations are very tough to manage, I suppose. This game would also show up in the first 2 Game & Watch galleries, and was also released on the Game & Watch Collection on DS. The enemy fighters for this spirit battle are 4 Mr. Game & Watches, who of course have Oil Panic as their down special attack. The stage you fight them on is Flat Zone X, specifically the Oil Panic layout, and the music is from the original Flat Zone, which also had an Oil Panic based hazard in the form of an oil spill. The rules for the battle will make the stage very slippery, which is likely a reference to how oil is generally very slick. After defeating him, he can be equipped as a support type spirit, referencing how Mr. Game & Watch uses the bucket as an attack, and the effect it provides is sticky floor immunity, again likely a reference to how oil is generally slick and sticky. Donkey Kong Jr. is the son of the original Donkey Kong, who debuted as the star of his own arcade game, Donkey Kong Jr. In said game, Mario cages DK as revenge for kidnapping Pauline, spurring Jr. to chase after them and save his father, using keys to break his shackles and eventually give Mario the boot. He would then get an edutainment sequel called Donkey Kong Jr. Math, and would assist his dad in kidnapping Pauline again in Donkey Kong 94 on the Game Boy. He also shows up in various Mario games, including Super Mario Kart and Mario Tennis, before vanishing and being effectively replaced by Diddy Kong. That being said, he did get to show up in sprite form in the form of Mario Kart Tour, so it's not all bad for him, I guess. In Smash Ultimate, Donkey Kong Jr.'s Spirit Battle has you fight against Donkey Kong and a giant Donkey Kong. The smaller DK is Jr., whilst the giant references his dad. The stage you fight them on is Congo Jungle, which likely references the layouts of the vine and jump board scenes from Donkey Kong Jr., with very similar layouts and moving platforms. The music that plays is the Donkey Kong Jr. medley. The conditions make the enemy's throws have increased power, which likely references the barrels that the original Donkey Kong could throw, but may also reference how Donkey Kong Jr. is apparently extremely strong and can carry his father with no effort whatsoever. After defeating him, he can be equipped as a grab-type primary spirit, likely referencing how Donkey Kong Jr. can climb vines in his original arcade appearance. His effect is Strong Throw, again likely referencing the barrels from the OG Donkey Kong, or Jr. climbing vines and collecting keys and lifting Donkey Kong to victory. Sidesteppers are hostile crab-like creatures first found in the sewers of the original Mario Bros. Like other enemies, Mario and Luigi can only kill them by bumping them from the bottom. Unlike the others though, Sidesteppers require 2 bumps to flip, with the first merely annoying them and making them move about faster. Furthermore, if flipped over and left alone, they will change color and scuttle about even faster. While not particularly common in future Mario titles, they have shown up in a number of different Mario games, most notably as a recurring hazard in the Mario Kart games from Super Circuit onwards. For this spirit battle, you'll face off against 12 Mr. Game & Watches, 8 red and 4 blue, which references their 2D appearance in their original debut game, as well as the red and blue colors that they possess, red initially and blue after being flipped over. The stage you face them on is Mario Bros, and the music that plays is, again, Mario Bros, both of which taken from their original debut appearance. The rules for the battle will make their movement speed increase, referencing the increased movement speed of the Sidestepper after you try to flip them. The conditions for the battle will make the enemy deal damage by dashing into you, which references how the Sidesteppers scuttle about and will hurt you upon contact. After defeating them, they can be equipped as a support-type spirit, which may be a reference to how they show up in the Mario Bros. Stage in Smash Ultimate and can be used as items to chuck at other enemies on that stage. Their effect is trade-off speed up, referencing how Sidesteppers speed up after you try to hurt them. Freezies are sentient ice blocks that pop out of pipes in the original arcade Mario Bros. Originally called slip ice, these things would freeze a platform solid when they reached the center, making things very slick for the bros to traverse across. That being said, they can be destroyed like regular enemies though, so make sure to try and pick them off as soon as you can. They've since shown up somewhat infrequently as various hazards that can freeze characters on contact, such as in Mario Kart, Mario Super Sluggers, and Mario Party. One even got to play the role of a boss battle in DDR Mario Mix, fighting Mario to the tune of Dr. Mario's Fever theme of all things. In Super Smash Bros., the Freezy spirit will pit you against the Ice Climbers, who are also associated with ice and cold. The stage you fight them on is Mario Bros., and the music that plays is Mario Bros. The rules will make Freezy items spawn, and the conditions for the battle will make the enemy start off with a Freezy. After defeating them, they can be equipped as a support-type spirit, which is likely a reference to the fact that Freezies also show up in Super Smash Bros. As an item, and upon equipping them, they will provide you with the effect Freezy Equipped, which, of course, starts you off with a Freezy. Who would have guessed? Bomberman, aka White Bomberman, is the star of his own eponymous series created by Konami in 1983. Originally debuting in the OG Bomberman, he began as a simple bomb-creating robot, who chose to rebel against the underground empire that he slaved for. Using his bomb creation abilities, he climbs through the empire up to the surface world, eventually transforming into a human named Load Runner, who would appear in his own, completely unrelated set of games. However, future games would retcon this, and though the exact story and world of the Bomberman series is somewhat variable, there are a handful of constants. Bomberman lives on Planet Bomber, he fights to protect his home from the various evils that threaten it, most notably Bagura and Mujo, and often teams up with various other multicolored Bombermen, sometimes as rivals, sometimes as family members. In Super Smash Bros., Bomberman's Spirit Battle has you fight against Toon Link, who's also small and wields bombs in battle. The stage you fight them on is Wrecking Crew, which normally has a maze-like design and various bombs that can spawn, much like the levels in Bomberman. The music that plays is Bomb Man's stage from Mega Man, referencing another robot capable of spawning bombs to blow up his opponents. The rules for the battle will make assist trophy enemies spawn, specifically Bomberman himself, and will also make exploding type items appear very frequently, of course a reference to Bomberman's bombs. The conditions for the battle will make the enemy's explosion and fire attacks have increased power, again a reference to Bomberman's bombs. After defeating him, he can be used as a grab-type primary spirit, which may be a reference to how Bomberman is capable of picking up and chucking around his bombs depending on which upgrades he may or may not have equipped. Stanley is a somewhat obscure Bugman and the star of Donkey Kong's third arcade outing. That said, he apparently technically debuted in the 1982 Game & Watch game Greenhouse, as can be seen by these print ads I found whilst researching for this guy. That being said, Smash seems pretty certain that he's a Donkey Kong character, so here he is on the list. That being said, he appeared as the main character of Donkey Kong 3, utilizing a pesticide pump to protect his plants from the bugs that DK let in. Should he touch any of these bugs or lose all of his plants, he will literally get eaten alive in this children's entertainment device. Following this arcade appearance, his only real appearances of anything worth noting was in an episode of the Saturday morning cartoon, Saturday Supercade, and in a handful of games and collections that reference Donkey Kong 3 and, I guess, also Greenhouse. In Smash Ultimate, Stanley's Spirit Battle has you fight against Villager, another short humanoid who also wears a blue shirt. The stage you fight them on is 75 meters from the arcade Donkey Kong, and the music that plays is Donkey Kong Jr. Medley, the two prequels to DK3. The conditions for the battle will make the enemy start off with a Gust Bellows, which is a reference to Stanley's Fumigator and the gases that it can spit out. After defeating him, he can be used as a shield-type primary spirit, referencing how the goal of Donkey Kong 3 was to help Stanley defend his bug house from Donkey Kong. Pitchers and batters are two of the most pivotal roles in the game of baseball. The pitcher is responsible for hurling the ball, whilst the batter must swing his baseball bat to send the ball soaring. As the pitcher's team attempts to try and catch the ball and toss it at the batter's team must try to circle the field and score points. Basically, what I'm trying to convey here is that baseball on NES is literally just baseball on NES, and features 6 teams, A, C, D, P, R, and Y. It also ended up getting ported to the Game Boy, with 2 teams, each helmed by Mario and Luigi. In Smash Ultimate, the pitcher and batter spirit has you fight against Ness and 2 Lucases, whose colors and costumes match the batters and pitchers in the artwork. The stage you fight them on is Pokemon Stadium 2, which is likely a reference to the green fields of a standard baseball stadium. The music that plays is Baseball Training from Wii Sports Club, for fairly obvious reasons, I'm sure. The rules will make various sports items spawn, referencing how baseball is a sport, and the conditions will make the enemy's favorite side smash attacks and make them start with a home run bat. The side smash is a reference to how Ness and Lucas both use baseball bats for their side smashes, whilst the home run bat is obviously a reference to how bats are used in baseball. After being defeated, they can be equipped as a support type spirit, which may be a reference to how baseball is a team-based sport, with various teammates attempting to assist each other in their goals. And the effect of equipping them is Beast Ball equipped, starting you off with a Beast Ball, which is a very powerful attacking, teleporting baseball of sorts. And that is every single spirit that debuted from 1979 to 1983, some of the earliest characters in all of video gaming. Thank you very much for watching, and make sure to tune in next time, where we'll talk about the 22 spirits that all debuted in 1984, including various games like Tennis, Pac-Land, Excitebike, and even the arcade Punch-Out! Ooh, so very exciting! Ooh, stay tuned for more! Ooh.